allows for individual containers to be full. Who wants to be the guinea pig? You go ahead and drink.
I do.
I really need the water.
So where did this water come from? It just came from the atmosphere?
This all came from the atmosphere. Right. It takes microscopic droplets of water, cools them, condenses them, and then runs it through a filtration process as well as a biocide to make sure that there are no contaminants, and then presents it for drinking. It tastes, well, what's particularly nice about this water is you don't have the chlorine, you don't have any of the chemicals. It tastes, it's the absence of those tastes which lets it taste so good, but also we add a little bit of calcium to it, so it has a slightly basic, slightly sweet taste to it.
So is there a residential application for this, and how much is that?
Yes, over to my left we have a 6-gallon per day unit, which is a countertop model. We also have a 100-gallon per day unit, and it keeps going up from there. You can also go a 400 or a 600. So this unit could easily power, this unit could easily provide enough water for several households. AWGI is a leader in the technology. Yeah, by far, and this is my personal opinion, everything I've looked at, they've worked through every single option of what happens if it fails, what happens if we need to run it in an adverse climate. In Dubai, for example.
That's my account.
Okay, so in Dubai, for example, they have dust storms. They have dried fecal matter that's going to be stored up in the dust storms. So you have to make sure that none of that ever ends up in the drinking water.
One more question. Who else would you consider for parking?
I'm not going to comment on that.
Are these commonly used anywhere in the world? Now?
This unit just arrived in California a few days ago. It came over from Texas. It's been traveling around the United States. It's going to now be traveling around California. It'll end up at a very prominent university here in California. I'm not at liberty to discuss who exactly right now, but it's destined to arrive there in just a few days. We are looking at other countries as well. AWGI, Ambient Water, is handling the, I really can't say which countries, but there are some
Malaysia, I can say
you
that.
can say
it's on our website.
Malaysia, and some Middle Eastern countries are also looking at very large sightings of about 1 million gallons per day.
How many of these have, this is a Shark Tank question, are you looking for investors, and how many of these have you sold to?
There's always the opportunity for investment. We don't really need the money right now. People have been jumping on board, so there's going to be a phase 1, a phase 2, and a phase 3 of funding. But right now we're pretty well taken care of. We always want to meet people. We're looking for new opportunities. And this pairs very well with some other water treatment options. You have some very large plants which are being built right now. They're going to have a lot of wastewater. Instead of shipping that wastewater over the ground, or instead of dumping that maybe somewhere in the ocean, you could stick one of these in the room with a little bit of humidity and remove all the moisture from it.
Okay, how many of these have you sold so far?
We have, today is the showcasing. We have not sold any in California yet. We are in negotiations for some pre-orders.
We are publicly
So Governor
traded
Brown,
on NASDAQ.
can I ask a question? Governor Brown is so focused on the twin tunnels that he won't really listen to anything else. So how do you think you can get to first base with him?
If Governor Brown wants to pursue his tunnels, he's perfectly within his right. We don't think that there's any one solution to this ongoing problem. California's water crisis is much larger than just 2 tunnels. Sacramento region is built upon the existing water demand, and many of the agricultural interests have been griping about how they just don't have enough water to continue. So instead of taking our water and diverting it down the state with a very costly system, it might make better sense to look at several different options, look at ongoing technologies which are viable in the state, and this is certainly one of them.
Johnson & Johnson Controls, can you tell us how pleased you are as a service provider contractor for AWGI and your firm in California? Did you hear the question?
we've been running it at 480, we've been running it at 208, and so there are different amperage demands. So at low amperage demands, at 480, the low amperage demands was 9.7 kilowatts, and it went up to 20 kilowatts.
So that would be the
That's at the
range,
480 side of it.
roughly 10 to 20 kilowatts, depending on, and the 480 is the
10 to 20.
Is the depends on
At
the
480.
amount of-
It runs on 208, so it's under 50 amps. So 25 kilowatts will run it all day long. I'm calling upon my contacts in the building to have a look at this and see whether or not I can help them out. So on Friday, we were at the EPA building meeting with, they had a water
Yeah, they had a water
Yeah,
technology.
so we were there
You
meeting
over
with
there? Okay.
we were there meeting with people. We wanted to showcase it at the Capitol because I kind of grew up in the Capitol. I've been here for 23 years under John Vasconcellos and others.
But you wouldn't need.
So I brought it home, kind of.
You wouldn't need any sort of special legislation to make this. Yeah,
Nope, nope.
As long as this meets the standards of the local water quality control boards, and they look at it and they say,
It already does. EPA already approved. So what we want is we want a seat at the table at discussions because we think that the solution is kind of like a puzzle. It's going to take many different pieces depending on the geographic region, the demands, who's involved.
but particularly I'm thinking, there are a number of communities in the Central Valley that don't have any potable water
No, they
supplies
don't.
right now.
Right.
And we're spending a lot of money bringing in bottled water.
Very expensive and not very friendly to the environment either. We don't need all that plastic.
And even in the dry Central Valley in the summertime, there's enough humidity in the air to make this work.
Yeah, we're in the heart of summer right now. It's making water.
And you said,
And I'm sweating. And,
I'm sweating too, yeah.
I'm sweating and it's not pulling my moisture off, so
Right.
it's not a concern. Some people like to say, ooh, what about the environment? What if you pull water out? And I'm an environmentalist, so that was my first question. And there's 90 trillion
Right, yeah, so
cubic meters.
it's so insignificant.
If all of it dropped all at once, it would almost cover Mount Everest. If all that water in our stratosphere
Right, yeah.
dropped all at once.
That's-
Atmosphere, stratosphere, thermosphere, they're all added together. Yeah. So we're good.
yeah.
So how did all this start? Who was the genesis of, there always has to be one guy that starts it, so
Yeah.
can you give me the background? Of,
Keith White of Ambient Water, he created it, and he's up in Vancouver. And so when we came across the technology, I said, California, we want to do it in California first. They said, well, we already have it in Texas. I said, pull it back. So I want California to be the proving ground, really.
What kind of background's he got?
He's an engineer.
Okay.
He's brilliant.
And
So he's been working on this unit he's been working on this issue since right around 95, 94. Going through many different iterations.
And is this a beta unit, or are there
This is in
multiple
production, ready to go. We can manufacture these all day long. Yeah. Bring out the checkbook and we'll have it delivered.
units? The technology can't be all that complicated.
It's not complicated, so in many ways, if you stand over on this side, you get cold air blowing underneath our tent. So it has 55-degree water coming, it has 55-degree air coming out of it. It's proven. It's tried, true, and proven. We tried to take as much as possible existing things off the shelf to bring it all together. Took some fine tuning and some tweaking, but we didn't want to have to recreate the wheel in any way, and we certainly didn't want to go through years of proving a new technology.
And you could run something like this off a solar panel?
Yes.
A solar panel on
Yeah.
top and
So between-
generate enough power to...
I'd say because of the angle you'd have to get and the sun passing over and everything, you'd want to have a bay of batteries because you're going to have some startup. They're going to act like capacitors for any surges. But then you're also going to want to have enough. For this unit, I would run 40 kV.
So you couldn't do this with a totally zero carbon footprint.
No, but you would be adding electricity into the grid during the day and then drawing upon it during the night. And so you could do it with a total net zero. You have net zero water, net zero energy, as long as you have enough solar panels. In fact, you might even, while you're at it, you could still go up to 50 kV or 60 kV. Your cost of the water over the amortized distance, amortized duration of the solar panel life, you're still at pennies per gallon.
How much for the personal unit? I'm sorry.
That's 1,200.
Okay.
Are we at 1,200 for the personal unit? 1,200? I can't really. Are we at $1,200 for the personal unit?
Somewhere around
Yeah,
there.
okay.
Depends on the distributor.
Okay.
70K for the
And
industrial.
70 for the
And the smaller unit has a capacity of just about
6 gallons per day.
which would be enough to take care of your cooking needs, coffee.
Yeah,
and
and personal drinking. If you're drinking more than that, you're dead because you have no electrolytes left.
Right,
And go
yeah.
over the cost on this again was 70.
About 70,000.
And it produces
plus
how much
delivery.
a day?
Up to 600. Actually, up to 630. But we're just targeting 600 under ideal conditions.
600.
Really, that would be hard plumbed into whatever you want. That's just something that was added on to take it around and fill in water wells individually.
But
You could either do the spigot, you could replace that because that's a.
and then that would just feed into the water line.
Take this off.
Feed
You
into the
hardwire
water
it
line.
Right into the water line.
Yeah.
I've already been trying to figure out how to give me and my surrounding 3 neighbors
Right.
water all the time.
Right. So a typical
And so we-
household,
yeah,
the
3 of us,
statewide,
4
is
of
about
us.
150 gallons per day.
Yeah, we were looking at about 4,400 per month. So 100 is a little bit maybe low, maybe I was high. You're right, about 100 per day.
So you could presumably get one unit to supply multiple number of houses.
Easily 4. Someone's going to leave the bathroom running. Some toilet's going to run. Something's going to happen.
Somebody's going to have a leak.
Someone's going to have a leak.
Yeah.
Which right now, were you at the water summit?
Uh-huh.
Did you hear what they said? They said the water treatment facilities at any given time, there's 10% of all water, more like 14% leaking into the ground in their systems on average. Sometimes upwards of 17 to 22%. That's a lot of water. We're at a 10% loss throughout the state. All of our treated water is going into the ground. Yeah, that's huge. We don't have any waste here.
Maybe it's 10:30.
EIR on the Delta.
It's a conference call. Yeah.
Oh, on the conference call.
conference call.
Well, be sure to say, hey, what about this water technology? So what they're going to say, if they let you say anything, what they're going to say is, oh, humidity, California humidity. Well, here we are in Sacramento, the desert of Sacramento, in the heat of summer, producing water. So last week we had 81%
Yeah, we have
humidity.
we had monsoon stuff coming
Yeah.
in, but
We were in, and that was more than ideal. So we were producing a lot of water. I've had a lot of this water, and I'm still standing. So
if I go to like the National Weather Service, what's it going to show me the average humidity in Sacramento for the month of August?
Probably higher than normal. This month,
Average.
Average?
Over a long term.
I don't know. On the super hot days, it's going to drop down to 30, maybe 27%.
And you
It
say
will.
you need 40 to.
But at night, well, we need 30, and it can be custom engineered too. So you run it in different ways. You fine tune the generators. You can. You're going to run it at night too. So when it starts to dip down and get cooler, right around 6, 7 o'clock, 7 or 8, all the way up to about 8 in the morning, you have 12 hours. That's half of your day when you're going to be generating anyway. So you have that taken care of. Yeah.
When you get a free second, I missed your earlier.
I'd be happy to. Sure.
Delivery.
Okay.
Thank you.
The one thing I just to leave you with. So they're talking about desal, what to do with desal, and we see ourselves as a complementary, symbiotic relationship with desal because they have a huge problem with the reject water. What to do with it? You stick one of these in a closed vessel with it, especially if the sun's warming it. We're going to remove all the moisture from that. You're not going to have any reject water.
Have you heard of Joseph Rizzi in Venetia, who's been trying to promote a desal plant a
Thank you.
mile offshore and a half mile down, and use ocean waves for free energy? And he's checked off every negative thing on.
Except for whales. You can't do that off the coast of California without interrupting whales.
Well, a half mile down or something is what he's been preaching.
But they dive.
But
Yeah.
he can't get any traction
Nope.
for that.
You will not get wave generator approval anywhere on the coast of California except for the inlet of the San Francisco Bay where the stadium was. That's the only place you'll get approval. And that's not going to do them any good. Yeah. So it's a good idea,
Yeah.
and it's something we were looking at about 3 years ago, wave generator and how to do it. And also we wanted to actually position turbines on top of these buoys that had magnetic, they had no bearings, they're magnetic, they're ceramic encased, and they would have wave generators and on top of the wind, because wind comes, hits the water, pushes through, spins the turbines, run it up. We could not get approval. So he's not going to anchor anything off the coast of California.